Welcome to Tutor Boot, where each week we talk about news related to HR and the world of work. We toot the news we like and boot the news we don't like. I'm your host, Stacey Nordwall, a serial joiner of early stage tech companies as their first in or only HR person. And joining us again today, we have the one and only Anessa Fike. Welcome back, Anessa.
Thank you for having me. This is always so fun.
For those who didn't hear you on the last episode, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, trying to make it quick, I have been doing fractional people and talent leadership for almost 12 years, where I have worked across almost every industry except for oil and gas. And I've worked with more than 125 organizations in 30 plus countries, from as small as three to as large as a couple 100,000. So, pretty much have seen everything there is to see in HR and talent. So, very little surprises me at this point.
All right. And we have a pretty packed episode. Anessa and I were talking and said we could just take this completely off the rails. But,
Yes, we're
sometimes
going to go for it.
we're going to go for it. Sometimes it's good to get a little unhinged, right?
That's right. That's right. I
All
mean,
right.
that's where I like to live sometimes. It's just in that spot.
All right, we're going to start off with an article from Fast Company. This one is called How Some Corporations Miscalculated the Impact of Abandoning DEI. The recap for this article is that it discusses the negative repercussions faced by companies that have rolled back diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. CEOs miscalculated the consequences, which have included loss of top talent, consumer backlash, and investor concerns. They said that rolling back DEI didn't just alter an internal policy position, it signaled a values misalignment with employees and consumers, driving financial losses and reputational damage, which is a trend they said will accelerate as Gen Z and millennials will dominate the workforce and consumer base by 2030. So,
Mhm.
Anessa, they said the CEOs miscalculated the market impact of rolling DEI back. What
That's
is
such a
your
nice way of saying something that we know was not a miscalculation, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was
Um,
going to ask. How do you think they managed to miscalculate this one?
hmm. Well, I'm going to first say that I'm going to guess that most of these people that have done this are not actually good business people. I'm just going to put
Hmm.
that out there.
All right.
I would say this one, like, I don't know how if we're gonna like toot or boot, because like I toot the people that are really still into DEI and doing the right thing, and I boot the people who were like, we're not gonna do it, but now we're gonna come back because now it just seems like they're trying to grab attention and money back again.
Mm.
Um, but I think that it's interesting and it's validating for us that have done this work for so long, because how many times have we been asked, what's the business case and what are the numbers and where's the data, right? And
Yeah.
we're just like, oh, but there's so much data, we're so tired of giving you
Let
this.
me show you Target.
Exactly. But it's so validating to see that just how much money is being lost from Target, for instance, right? I know I haven't shopped at Target. And by the way, I've saved so much money because I haven't shopped at Target, right? I just would just go to Target and walk around and look and buy stuff I didn't need. And
Yeah.
so if you think about Target's target audience, it's all of us who aren't going to go back when you say you're not going to do DEI, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that there is an audience that's for Walmart, and I think there's an audience that's for Target. And for a while, I think a lot of us, at least for me, I was like, Target's okay, Target, you're okay. Yes, like we're introducing more product lines, we're introducing some, business owners that we haven't seen before on the shelves. Amazing.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that for us. Um, but then all of a sudden it was kind of just like, but wait, like I'm confused. You were supposed to be the one that we went to, right? You were supposed
Mm.
to have our backs. And so I think for that piece, it was a little bit jarring for some people, but the data's there and the business leaders can't ignore that data now. And so I think back to our point of like miscalculation, I think it's a really nice way for them to CYA, and they're hoping that some people aren't going to pay attention and are just going to go back, right? And I think those of us who have been paying attention this whole time are going to see it for what it is, which is a thinly veiled excuse, and we still aren't going back. So I think once trust is broken from a consumer standpoint for a lot of these businesses, it's really hard to get that trust back.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, I kind of took the toot in this that I was like, this is what we have been saying. Like, if you want to be an attractive employer, you have to implement inclusive talent
Right,
strategies. If you want to connect, like, and it isn't just something that ends, at the door or internally, it extends beyond.
right.
People are looking at your brand. They want to have aligned values. Like, we know all of these things. And consumers are looking at those things when they're making their purchases, right? We know this. So I think that it felt like, again, sometimes I just read things and the validation just
Yes.
does it for me of like, okay, I wish that this would translate into companies actually listening to their heads of people and people
Mm-hmm.
leaders, like
Right.
before they have to fall flat on their faces, but sometimes you have to watch them fall flat on their
Right.
faces.
Sometimes they have to learn their own lessons,
Yeah.
right?
I got to touch the
Yes.
hot stove, it's like,
Right.
great.
Right.
And I think one of the things that they said too, they started um talking about ways or why they thought some of that misalignment happened. And I thought this was a quote that I wanted to pull.
Mm-hmm.
The driver of misalignment was, quote, many CEOs and their close circle of advisors operate in insular circles shaped by an era when DEI was a mere compliance or PR effort, not a business strategy.
And haven't we all been there as heads of people where it's like the CEO, even though we are the experts, they'll say, well, my one friend said
Yeah.
they're going to do this, or my one friend's doing this. And it's like, great, let's take your study of one person
Your
instead of
one
our
friend
study
who
of
looks exactly like
thousands.
you.
Right, right. And oh, we're going to just do what they say, right? Like they have no idea what they're doing. So it's just also validating for us, for other people to see all of the things that we have seen for years and that we've also told people for years, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't keep just making decisions in your 3-person breakfast club,
Yeah.
together that you have to get on Saturday mornings, right? Like that's not a big enough group to really have any significance, and none of you are experts, by the way. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting for us to just have that validation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, part of what they're saying in this article is like those CEOs, people need to widen their circles because ultimately
Yeah,
they are out of touch with their consumers. They're out of touch with their
100%.
employees. And because they're kind of said it was like the ivory tower
Mm-hmm.
experience because they just weren't weren't in touch.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. They also kind of pointed out that institutional investors incorporate DEI into their sustainable and risk management assessments because they're looking at that and saying, okay, if you're doing this, what does that mean for your
Mm-hmm.
long-term workforce? And what does that mean? Are you going to be able to handle long-term market shifts? And they're actually
Yeah.
factoring that into how they're looking at companies and what who they're investing in. So again, it's like to do these kinds of things is so short-sighted.
You'd think that maybe they didn't get those MBAs, or they didn't, really pay attention.
I know. And
Um,
it hurts because like I'm so bad at business, like so
right? We're so bad
HR,
at business,
so
right?
bad at business strategy. Couldn't possibly have seen this coming.
Oh my gosh. And FYI, for any of the CEOs, COOs listening out there, I will tell you the number one hack for being a way better CEO than anyone else that's out there, pretty much. Listen to your people leader,
Yeah.
because we say I told you so more often than any other leader because we have seen it and we know it was coming. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't
Yep.
that be the dream? I've had a few of them every now and then that are like, oh my gosh, yes, listen, okay, great. And those are just so lovely and it works
Yeah.
so well. And by the way, those companies made way more money.
Yeah.
So that should be an indicator. But too many people don't listen to us. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yes.
All right, we will move on to our next article, which is from Inc. It's titled, Has the Labor Market Changed or Have Employees? The recap for this article, they talk about how the traditional employer-employee relationship is evolving. The career ladder or lifelong tenure with an employer doesn't really exist so much anymore. Employee trust is at a low because of layoffs and AI coming in and so forth. And so workers are really stepping back, prioritizing meaningful work, growth opportunities, and autonomy. This shift challenges companies to adapt their management practices to retain talent and maintain productivity. So, does this idea about the shift in the traditional employer-employee relationship resonate with you? We've talked about this some
Yes.
before.
Yes, and I would say it's interesting to me that any employer still believes there is this illusion, and I want
Mm,
to say illusion of stability. None of
yeah,
us trust you all, right? Like
yeah,
we we are under no illusion that there is any stability left in
yeah,
anything, right? The pensions are gone, the long-term, time at some of these organizations are gone. I mean, look at 401ks right now. Even that's really looking kind of, oof, just given the economy. So all of it is
yeah,
just really unstable and chaotic, especially right now.
yeah.
And the smart business leaders would say, you know what? We're going to show our employees that we actually care in the way that we put together policies and have all of these, the way that we operate, the way our core values, the way we live our core values. The smart ones would do that, but a lot of them are not. And a lot
Mhm.
of organizations are really just digging into the common phrase that we hear all the time: no one wants to work, right? And I don't know how many times I need to hear
Ah,
no one wants to work. And then I dive into it. And when I ask like one or two follow up questions, they can't answer them. So I'm always like, what does that mean to you? Do people want to work for what you worked for 20 years ago?
yeah,
Sure. That doesn't exist anymore. So what are they working for? Right? What are
yeah.
they working towards? And I think people are also with this shift, with this labor shift, especially with more and more people going fractional, gig workers, advisory, speaking, like all of this stuff that's coming into our lives, even social media and influencers. We are now way more able to take a bet on ourselves
Mm,
and be able to say, you know who I can trust? The person that I look at in the mirror every day, because I know what they're going to be able to do. I
yeah,
know the work they're able to put in, right? And people are realizing that that is way more stable than any full-time job has ever been,
yeah.
right? And I think that is honestly scaring a lot of leaders and scaring, but they're not talking about it. And so
Mm.
it's this, I think, this behind closed doors of what does this shift in the gig economy, the fractional economy, how does this labor shift, how's it going to affect us? And they don't have answers because the thing that's not entering their brain is treating people better. And it absolutely should be, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the duh thing, and they're not getting it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to your point, they called this out in the article that especially, and I want to say this is pretty like US focused and what I'm
Mm-hmm.
about to say, but that this rise of at will work and of
Mm-hmm.
work, all of this, employers have been treating employees they've been treating that relationship as transactional, right?
Yes.
And then in return, they're like, well, wait, why are you viewing it as transactional?
Right.
Why are you treating it that way? Why aren't you giving me your all? And it's like, wait a second.
Right.
You think you're creating this imbalance where you're treating it as though it's a transactional thing and then get surprised when
Yeah,
employees treat it the same way. So
exactly.
yeah, so I think, to me, that is one of those things that really it's like very true and stands out a lot where you see all of this, like, oh, people don't want to work. People don't want to work for a transactional relationship and expect to give you loyalty and whatever, like
Right.
they're defining it in a different way to what suits them,
Right.
and what works for their lives. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting, especially then as we're talking about some of these other things too, of like what is this kind of long-term business strategy? It is not a good long-term business strategy to
No.
treat employees transactionally. And
Right.
you get what you get when you do that.
Right. 100%. And then it's like, it's like when you go, let's say, to like a sandwich shop, right? And you have someone who actually gets taken care of and cares about their job, your sandwich is going to look beautiful. It's going to be great. let's say you get someone that is treated horribly and doesn't care about their job and is actually just looking for another job, sandwich is going to look horrible, right? And so, like, I think that that's a very easy thing for us to think about. Is just it's not actually difficult to treat people well. It's not.
Yeah.
And we make it so difficult. And we somehow, these leaders create all of these humps for us to, and loops to go through, humps to us to jump over for what, right? Like, it's just the right thing to do. Number one. Number two, it makes you more money. And number three, people stay longer. So
Yes.
I'm not sure what the downside is.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is what they're saying in the article as
Right.
well. They say the healthiest businesses recognize that long-term success comes from
Mhm.
aligning employee and employer interests. So it is a when you treat people well, that's good for your business. Like it's
Right.
not, and that is one of the things we're kind of talking about a lot of this. It's like I think that as people leaders, we understand these very like simple and inherent truths. And we're
Yes.
like, why do we have to explain this? Like, it's
Why do we have to explain
what's
being
so hard to
decent human
understand?
beings? Why is being a decent human being something that we have to have a 45-minute meeting on, right? Like,
Yeah.
why? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And I think that, yeah, that is one of the things that especially when it comes back to like business case, and then you're like, I can present all the business cases in the world. I don't know why I need to present a business case for not treating people transactionally, knowing that we already know it's going to equate to long-term business success. But, we get stuck in these loops with folks because, for whatever reason, they just don't want to change how they've managed. They don't
Right.
want to change how they have done business or really look at how the whole relationship has changed.
And if we even think about our entire industry as a whole, if business leaders were good actual leaders and people were actually good people, our entire industry wouldn't need to exist. Our industry exists because people cannot do the right things. That's why we're just corporate babysitters for a lot of people who just don't know how to adult well and be good people. Like that's literally why most of our industry exists. So it's wild to think about that an entire industry exists because leaders can't be good people. I'm just going to leave
They
that there.
they can't, they're choosing profits over people and
Yes.
making things transactional and then wondering why business isn't what it used to be. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to our last article of this episode. I am going to first kind of give a bit of a warning. This article references some really disturbing content. There's disturbing content that these moderators are being exposed to in this segment. So, if you're not prepared for that today, you can skip the rest of the episode, come back for the last minute or so, and hear from Anessa and how you can connect with her. But we'll also put that info in the show notes. So this is your chance to opt out for this last article. It comes to us from The Guardian. The title is Meta Faces Ghana Lawsuits Over Impact of Extreme Content on Moderation. The recap is that Meta faces legal action in Ghana over claims of psychological harm to content moderators who are exposed to disturbing social media content as part of their role in reviewing and removing the content from Meta's platforms. This lawsuit comes after 140 Facebook content moderators in Kenya were diagnosed with severe PTSD caused by exposure to graphic content. All of this raises questions about worker protections in the digital age because, as they point out in the article, many places may have protections in regards to physical injury, but those worker protections may not extend to psychological harm. This was a rough read.
Yeah.
What stood out to you?
Oh, so I'm gonna probably bring in Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams as well. And it's a book around her experience at Facebook and Meta. And the thing that really stood out to me is honestly, I wasn't surprised.
Mm.
I was not surprised by the behavior of Facebook and Meta. If you read that book, I actually wasn't surprised before I read the book, or after I read the book, I just thought, oh wow, it's even worse than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But it's not Facebook and Meta are not known to think about other people. right? They're known to think about money and
Yeah.
each other in the leadership circle. And anyone, by the way, I always want to caveat this by saying, like, go and read this book. The Careless People book by Sarah Wynne Williams is very much a depiction of what a lot of us have experienced in tech startups early on,
Yeah.
especially in the last decade.
Mhm.
Similar to, like, if you watch Super Pumped, very similar to that experience of what those people went through in Uber, et cetera. And so this is, if you've been in startups, this isn't surprising. And it
Yeah.
very much should be. It very much should be surprising. It's just not to those of us that have seen it before.
Mm.
And for me, there's this piece around we should be thinking about the toxicity, the trauma, the workplace dynamics in terms of what employees are exposed to, right?
Yeah.
I honestly think that there, should be more hazard pay for more jobs out there, right? You hear about hazard pay being paid to truck drivers who drive hazardous materials. You hear about hazard pay for certain other types of trades. But I really think that this is going to be probably not in the next 3.5 years, but maybe after that, there's going to be a discussion around how do we actually implement some guidelines around hazard pay in some of these institutions. Now, the other piece of that, the Facebook Meta thing, is for me, it's when in reading the book Careless People, it's not something that was new to them. It's not something that they didn't know wasn't going to happen. And so for
Yeah.
me, they knew what was going to happen. They asked even worse of some of their employees earlier on in Facebook and Meta. And so I really think that, like, if you really want to understand that, it's great to read Careless People. But I'm under no illusion that Mark Zuckerberg or anyone in Meta or Facebook's leadership or anyone tied to them in that matter cares anything about people.
Mm.
I think that as a people leader, we have seen time and time again that they have had opportunities to show us that they care, and they've shown us time and time again that they don't. And so when someone tells you who they are, believe them. And Facebook and Meta have told us who they are for a long time. So again, it's not concerning, but I do think that there's going to be this discussion again, probably past 4 years from now, because I don't think the administration right now is going to do anything about that, but about trauma and workforce trauma and what does that mean? And is there hazard pay? I think that honestly, what I think is probably going to happen is some of these organizations are going to run out of people to work in those areas because the new generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha behind them, they're just going to say no. And so they're going to start to run out of people to actually do these jobs. So they're going to be almost forced to pay attention to how they're treating employees and what they're asking those employees to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is, I've probably, well, there was a lot of stuff I read in this article that it was a pretty grim. It was quite grim.
Yeah.
Um, but what stuck with me, and this is, to your last point, the article says that they outsource this content moderation work and often employ content moderators in the poorest parts of the world,
Yep.
often in Africa. And it's their job to remove the posts and train AI, to remove the posts. And what does it say that this work is being outsourced to the
Yeah.
poorest countries?
Right. Right.
Um,
It
I
says
like
they don't
there's,
care.
yeah, I mean,
I don't care about people.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, I think there's like an extra level of finding that disturbing to me where they're just completely shoving it out of sight, out of mind, and not caring about the impact that it
Yeah.
has on people and thinking like not even doing that within the US or making that part of within their normal
Right.
company structure, right? They're outsourcing it to an agency somewhere else so that they don't have to think about it. They don't have to think about those people or the impact on those people or who those people are, right? And
Right.
so it's really, I just find that incredibly
Yeah.
disturbing.
Well,
Um,
and I think that, and I'm not going to get the numbers right, but there's something to, if you read the book, there's something to the effect of like when Mark Zuckerberg was trying to have a baby, when they were trying to have their first baby, and his wife was pregnant, and Zika was around. And so he was really worried about the Zika virus, and he did not want to get infected. He had no qualms about sending a pregnant Facebook person to a Zika country, a country that had Zika in it that was pretty prevalent. Had no worries until it was him, number one.
yeah.
Number two, they built an entire sort of like tent situation and basically like this temporary building for him to be in during this time in a different country. And the amount of money they spent on that structure could have solved homelessness in San Francisco.
Mhm.
And so when you just think about those two things,
Yeah.
you know they don't care about people. So it's just this elitist mentality that they don't seem to be able to understand how to get out of. And I, that's not me, so I don't know what that is like. But it's just this thing where it's when you put two and two together, it doesn't make sense for most normal, nice people.
Right. Yeah. And to your point, so they said in the article that the wages that the content moderators are being paid are below living costs. So they
Mhm.
said and they were penalized if they didn't meet performance targets. So the base
Right.
wage was $85 a month. Estimated monthly costs for a single person in that city was about $600, excluding
Mhm.
rent.
Mhm.
Um, and the thing is, to your point, if you stack this up, Meta invested 45 billion on the fucking metaverse. Like
Yeah. That they're
garbage
still making
thing.
it's like fetch. They're still trying to make it happen.
Yeah, oh yeah. And they spent over 90 billion
Hmm.
buying back their own stock.
Right.
So you think about
$85 a month is like a cup of coffee to them
right. So
on eBay.
they could be doing like they could, to your earlier point, also, they could be doing actual things to make the platforms more safe, but
Right.
they're not doing that. They're outsourcing, to low and paying low wages
Yeah.
to people that, they're just not really concerned about, it seems like. And meanwhile, just money is just flowing and
Yeah.
it's such, I don't know. Yeah, it is. It's just so truly disturbing. And this is just one company, right? Like
Just one. Right. Right. And in
we,
Silicon Valley, there's a lot of them just like this one. Yes. And around
yes.
the and around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And it really, to your point about like hazard pay and this and that, even, kind of extended further out just from Meta, but the idea of, yeah, of like what kind of work, even if, if we brought this work back into the US, what kind of psychological harm
Right.
are people being exposed to? And were our laws really, I don't think, have caught up to that, to think about that, like as they point out in the article that, physical injury, there's something for that. There's workers' comp, there are things, there are policies and protections, but what kind of policies and protections exist for workers who are exposed to psychological harm in the
Right.
course of their job?
When it baffles me too, because Zuckerberg still acts like he's this great engineer, and maybe he is. But if you have all of the best engineers in the world, then why can't you create an AI mechanism to have that be a moderator instead of humans? And if you can't figure that out, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you're not so great at engineering. So that is my thought, right? If you're going to tout yourself as something, put it to some good use.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, truly, because like I said, there's stuff in that article that you're like, nope, nobody should have to be seeing this. This is
No.
absolutely like incomprehensible to me that it's someone's job to be exposed to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Oh,
very gross. Very
very
gross.
gross. Very gross. And just like very gross and also not surprising. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, indeed. All right. Well, Anessa, thank you so
Thank you.
much again for joining. It has been wonderful having you on. For folks who want to learn more from you, connect with you, how can they do that? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can find me at Fike & Co, FIKEANDCO.com. And if you want to read a little bit more about what I think the next 5 to 10 to 20 years look like in the workplace, grab my book, The Revolution of Work. I'm going to ask that you buy it on bookshop.org because it helps independent bookstores.
Fabulous. Love that. Recommend everyone go out and grab that. And the links for contacting Anessa will also be in the show notes. Thank you again
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
joining. Thanks for listening to another episode of Toot or Boot. You can keep in touch with me, Stacy, on LinkedIn, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at tootorboot.com. And if you're enjoying Toot or Boot, we'd appreciate your positive review on your favorite podcast platform.